I'm Kerry Bowers, and I approve this message.
Greetings. In this presentation, I will share with you my thoughts about the nation's war on drugs. I will begin by stating at the outset that I would terminate the majority of federal drug enforcement activities that are of a proactive character, including any federal funding intended to deter the manufacture, cultivation, distribution, or sale of otherwise illegal drugs upon domestic or foreign soil or upon the seas. I would also seek the repeal of federal laws specific to the manufacture, cultivation, distribution, and sale of drugs, excluding those laws specific to medical applications and national importation. All drugs destined for medical application will require the approval of the Food and Drug Administration, a process also necessary to comply with the liability and tort reform measures addressed in my American Medical Reform Plan. With respect to the violation of our nation's import laws, such violators shall be subject to the same consequences as applicable to all other contraband introduced across our nation's borders. In proposing this course of action, I defer to the states, the District of Columbia, the military and U.S. territories and possessions, the implementation and enforcement of such drug laws, rules, and regulations as each may deem necessary and appropriate. It is further desired that the states and all other jurisdictions be reserved the power to prosecute violations of their respective drug laws when such violations are committed upon federal properties contained within the boundary of the state or other jurisdictional entity. While the federal government will have a significantly reduced role in drug enforcement operations, both within and beyond our national borders, I expect and welcome increased enforcement by the states and other jurisdictional entities, including those where decriminalization of certain drugs has occurred. I would welcome state laws that define where drugs may or may not be used, and specifically those that are released into the environment, where they may be directly or indirectly inhaled or ingested by non-participants. For example, the smoking of marijuana should be limited to only private locations where no non-participant or underage individual may come into contact directly or indirectly with the drug. This would prohibit the use of marijuana in public places and in private dwellings that include, but not limited to, apartments, condominiums, hotels, and other multi-dwelling locations. In addition to the limitations placed on the location where drugs may be used, I support the consequences that may come subsequent to either the legal or illegal use of drugs. Such consequences may be the arrest and prosecution for driving a motor vehicle, operating a watercraft, or piloting an aircraft while under the influence of a legal or illegally obtained drug. I support the voiding of life, health, and vehicle insurances, excluding liability, where the incident giving rise to an insurance claim occurred as a consequence of the insured using a drug in a manner not approved by the insurer. This should be true whether or not an incident results in adjudication and with or without a conviction. In liability claims, the insurer should be reserved the right to seek financial relief from the insured when the same acted contrary to the insurer's drug use policies. I support state laws that will hold a person manufacturing, cultivating, distributing, or selling a drug in other than an FDA-approved process liable for the health of the recipient and any subsequent event in which the recipient may become involved as a consequence of the drug provided, directly or indirectly, to them. If a child goes to school smelling of or otherwise exhibiting some exposure to a substance not authorized for underage use, then the jurisdiction should have the power to obtain a court order to test the child accordingly, and those who participated in the exposure be subjected to prosecution. And last, among many other possible consequences, I support the authority of employers to conduct random, unannounced drug testing and retain the right to terminate employment if such testing reveals a drug or other substance not approved for use by the employer. And with that in mind, I believe the employer, the company, and its shareholders should have the right to hold an employee civilly liable for any direct or indirect loss of income resulting from the unapproved use of a drug or other stimulant. Fellow Americans, with any freedom comes the responsibility to be responsible, both to oneself and to those who may be impacted by our actions. In taking the actions I have proposed, I would leave to each American the freedom to choose responsible behavior or irresponsible behavior. However, choosing the irresponsible behavior means accepting beforehand the consequences of law enforcement as may apply under the state or other jurisdiction in which an infraction occurs. I pray that each of you will choose to be responsible and, in doing so, acknowledge what is more important to you, your vices or your freedom, and the safety and security of those you should put before self, those being your family, community, and nation. I thank you for your kind attention to this message.